What's up, everybody? It's the Digital World Podcast. I want to get started and I want to continue this conversation because this is going to be something that we're going to keep covering, keep discussing, regardless of what the short term moves are. Because I really do think that we are headed for a bond market or a bear bond market or bond market, bear market, whatever you want to call it. And it's kind of coincidental that we see that our bottom was December of 2019, right before the let's call it the craziness occurred for the next several years. Um, and you can see that um, the timing of it is just something that it's kind of unbelievable to think that that was our Pico bottom, right? Now, um, like I've been reiterating, the fact that we have now almost 5 years worth of data. Actually, we have more than 5 years. We're going on the sixth year. Um, is kind of how should I say? It's a way to remind you that something's happening, something different is occurring. I really don't care what happens in the short to medium term. What I'm looking at is this trend. This is a negative correlation trend here. Now we're starting to have a positive correlation. So there's definitely a change that has happened, and people have not woken up to it yet. And my thing is, it takes several years before people can realize that there's been a change. And I think the dynamics that you're seeing, um, as far as the markets go, tell you that we're going much higher. We're going much higher. You see um, the inflation expectations being risen higher, and I think there's a lot of credible threats being thrown out there, right? Because I think that's if you guys have seen, um, I'm blanking on the name of the movie, but it's like a 1950s, 1960s Wizard of Oz, and I think a lot of what it talks about there, right? Like in the end, for those of you who have seen it or who haven't, this is a spoiler alert, but they end up figuring out that the big scary man behind the screen or whatever is just a tiny little dude that's like scaring everyone. It's just all these big threats, right? Um, so right now, what you're seeing is there's a lot of threats out there. The system is very, it's depending on a lot of things, but when you're trying to keep something going, right, when your actual rates don't really make the difference, instead it's the communication that's given about those rates is what really drives the markets. Um, and so I think right now what you're seeing, the communication is they're expecting you to expect high inflation and to so with your expectations being like that, they're able to um, kind of set their monetary policy. And all that to say is we're going higher for longer. And I think there's been a trend change. And whether a lot of people are arguing, right, because they're looking back in history, which you very well should, right? You should look at what has happened in the past so you can kind of determine, hey, what are we going to do in the future? And I want you to see here, this is the 30-year mortgage rates, right? And like you see in my chart here for the 30-year treasury yield, look at what when it peaked in 1987. Actually, 1981 was the actual Pico top. This chart doesn't go far enough, but you can see it just keeps going down. So let's go 1987 of June. Let's go to 1987 of June. Right there, around there. What you can see is these 30-year mortgage rates have just been declining ever since. And what you can see here is around December of 20, let's see, December of, for here, so it looks like 30-year mortgage rates bottomed around the I'd say like 2021, around there, right? Um, and you've only see them go up now. Now, this is a little different than the 30-year treasury yields, right? Like we're gonna wait to see where this trend goes. But when there's a strong positive correlation between the 30-year and the yield and the 30-year mortgage rate, you have to pay attention. And I think where we're going is I mean, there's signs out there. J.P. Morgan is telling you, people, there's going to be a panic in the bond market, and people will be caught off guard. And I think what he's intimating here is that we're going to see yields go higher, and it's going to catch people off guard. And there's going to be a lot of changes. People that have been accustomed to the last 10, 15 years, right? Like, this is going to be a change from the norm, and I think we're heading into a different direction. And to prove and reiterate that point here, I want to show this to you guys. The average 30-year mortgage rate based on decades, right, here in the U.S. In the 70s was 8.9, right, and you can see the chart below. The 80s was 12.7. This is the average mortgage rate in the U.S. Then in the 90s, you start seeing a drop, right, 8.1% on average. 2000s was 6.3. 2010s was 4.1. And what do you know? 2020s were ticking up. So all-time low was in January 2021, and the peak most recently was in October 2023. So I do anticipate that we're gonna start inching up in the next decade, right? You'll probably see this rate maybe at 6, maybe 7, whatever it is. But I do think we have a trend change. And that's what I'm trying to reiterate here, where, hey, you think mortgage rates are high today? You just give it some time, right? I mean, this is a long-term game, and I'm trying to alert people to it so that they're aware. What that does to home prices, that's not my point here to argue, right? But inevitably, you have higher rates, should drive down prices, but crazier things have happened. And so that's my thing, is I'm trying to get the word out. I'm trying to spread this, right? But I think we're headed into interesting times, and I think it's important for people to take notice. Just like we've seen the changes over the decades in decreasing amounts for the 30-year mortgage rates, I think that officially has come to an end, and we're now seeing, or we're going to be seeing, higher mortgage rates for the foreseeable future. So, with that being said, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe to the channel. Please comment below. Let me know what you guys are seeing in your area. I'm curious to know how many homes you guys are seeing up for sale, any deals that are in there. Anyways, like and subscribe to the channel. This is the Digital World Podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode.